Bowlers, what is going on? We have a brand new announcement from Brunswick Bowling today. We have 4 new bowling balls from the 7 brands of Brunswick were just recently announced, going to be coming out in just a few weeks. We're going to go through our initial previews and our initial first reactions on what these bowling balls are, where they're going to fit in a bag, and if you should really buy them or not. Now, my name is Zach, if you're new here, and we specialize in being able to create bowling ball arsenals for people, helping you guys pick the right bowling ball so you don't make the wrong choice. We're not here to tell you any ball's the best thing ever, the worst thing ever. We're giving you an unbiased opinion, unbiased review of what these bowling balls do. If you're new here, make sure to like and subscribe. Helps me out a ton, helps me continue to make these kinds of videos. But let's get right into it. We're going to go starting with probably the second most hyped ball on the list, in my opinion. That is the Brunswick Hypnotize. Now, I have to make sure I say this one correctly. I've messed it up a few times between Mesmerize, Hypnotize, and Vaporize, as you can see there. But we have now a hybrid version of the Mesmerize. So this is a little bit of a weird one. Beautiful colorway, first of all. It is the Hypnotize, awesome logo, awesome colorway. We have a dual colored logo, kind of cool. Looking at some of the numbers, we have a lot of cool things from Brunswick. They have this nice little graphic of what the core looks like. We don't care that much about that, in all honesty. We're going to look at the numbers, though. So what we need to know, though, this is the Mesmerize core, in my opinion, one of the best, strongest smooth balls of 2024. But then we have the Vaporize cover stock in a hybrid fashion. Very, very interesting. So the Mesmerize core, for anybody who doesn't remember, fairly strong core at the end of the day. 251 RG, 056 differential, 017 intermediate differential or asymmetry. That is generally pretty strong. Very high differential means it wants to flare a bunch, which means it wants to hook a bunch. The RG is a little bit higher for this class, which means it wants to push a little further down lane. That is not something we saw from the Mesmerize. What we saw from the Mesmerize is that ball wanted to hook. It wanted to hook and never stop hooking. And I'm going to assume it's going to be fairly similar with this ball, especially with the cover stock that we talked about. It's HK22C. So HK22C wants to push it even further down lane, be super sharp down lane, but it's in a hybrid form. So what can we expect from this ball? It's honestly going to be pretty basic at the end of the day. It's going to fit between the Mesmerize and the Vaporize. So when the Mesmerize is too early and too much hook, you usually could go down to the Vaporize. Well, now we have a middle option. A ball that this is really going to compete with is going to be the Hammer Pure Envy. I'm very curious how those two intertwine because that Pure Envy is really, really good. However, this Hypnotize generally probably should be pretty decent. The Mesmerize and Vaporize were amazing bowling balls last year, arguably two of the best from the Brunswick brands last year. So I don't know where this Hypnotize is going to fit. Now, in the past, in bowling in general, the hybrid version of bowling balls tend to be the worst iteration of the three. For a lot of people that remember, one I was just talking about this weekend was the No Rules series from Rotogrip, where you had the solid one was awesome, the pearl one was even better, the hybrid one, the exist, was absolutely terrible for almost everybody. And that's kind of a common theme if you think about it. Most people don't like the hybrid version of bowling balls, so we're going to see if this Hypnotize is going to be any different. Now, because it does have that HK22C, it's probably going to be a little closer to a Vaporize. So who should buy this ball? I think this is going to be kind of like a physics blackout, where it's not a strong smooth ball, it's not a strong sharp ball, it's somewhere in between. So if you need to fill a spot in between, you're going to like this, or else if you're speed dominant, you're probably going to like this, especially for house shots. Nothing else too crazy down here. We have their top notes about HK22, dot, and dynamic core. Nothing too crazy in here. We have a print ad, info sheet. Let's just see what the info sheet has. We do have a ball performance index chart. And as you can see, we have in the pro line, we have the Mesmerize and traction. So they do a little bit differently. They don't actually go like early to late, which I prefer. They have flip, traction, all-purpose, control, and accurate. The last two are hot garbage. They don't mean anything because it only has the twist and the T-zone and plastic balls. But all-purpose is this ball with the original Rhino, the really low-end Rhinos, and then the Ethos Hybrid. So it's a step up from the Ethos Hybrid. It is also a step up from the Mesmerize, or a step down from the Mesmerize, but the Vaporize and the Intense are actually steps down from that. This chart is not very great in that regard to showcase that, but that Hypnotize is going to fit between the Mesmerize and the Vaporize. This is arguably going to be one of the best ones on the list. Looking at the price, this also comes in at a really high price of $195. This is the most expensive bowling ball you can buy from Brunswick Bowling. It sounds like they just went through some price increases, and we might be seeing more in the coming weeks, depending on, the tariff situation, a few other fun things going on. So $195 right now for this ball. It's a lot of money for a ball, but this is the top of the top line from Brunswick. Now, we're going to go into the second ball that I think is the biggest wild card in the bunch. It's going to be the Criterion Hybrid. This interesting colorway, to say the least. I don't know about that yellow, man. The teal looks gorgeous. The black looks gorgeous. The yellow is a choice. Makes it look like a trackball, though. So we have the Criterion Hybrid. For a little bit of background, the track Criterion is a solid asymmetrical bowling ball, very strong, very early. In my opinion, the best or one of the best asymmetrical solid balls from Brunswick. I think the Mesmerize and Criterion are the top two, minus, I guess you have a Black Widow 3.0 in there, and that's a little bit weaker than both of the others. But this Criterion solid is really good, and now we have a hybrid version coming out. Kind of expected. I assume they'd go with a pearl version because Track already has a couple or has a lot of stuff in that range, or Brunswick in general does. In my opinion, this really reminds me of the Crusher series from Ebonite. They kind of fit in the same spot in the bag. So if you have a Crusher, don't look at this Criterion Hybrid. And in all honesty, the Hypnotize and the Criterion Hybrid will probably fit nearly the same spot in the bag, which is a little bit interesting of why they released these two at the same time. Looking at the nice little marketing notes, long-standing history of the Paradox, Paragon, Archetype, and now the Criterion. Each generation builds on itself. The Criterion Hybrid is just the legacy, where it is that Criterion core with a hybrid cover stock. It is the all-new Super Response Hybrid. It has HK22C. That's going to make it sharper down lane. So this is probably going to be like that Ebonite Crusher Hybrid. I'll be curious to see the differences. I feel like they're going to be very close. Looking at the core numbers, this has a 250 RG, almost identical to the Hypnotize. The differential is 052, a little bit lower. The intermediate differential is nearly identical at 018. So the core numbers very, very close to the Hypnotize, also pretty close to the Crusher. The only difference is that cover stock. Now, Brunswick doesn't have a giant guide to show which cover stock is stronger between the 7 brands, so we're not sure if Super Response is going to be stronger or weaker than HK22C Evo that's going to be in the Hypnotize, or whatever is on the Ebonite Crusher. What can we really expect from this ball? That's about everything with it. It's going to be later than a Criterion, but if we look at Track's lineup of bowling balls right now, we need to click on the bowling ball button. We have the Theorem Pearl and the Theorem that also are in this line. This Criterion Hybrid will be stronger than the Theorem and the Theorem Pearl. That is a guarantee. That ball will definitely be a bit stronger, if not much stronger, in my opinion. That Theorem is fairly weak yet. I've always said it's on the weak end of strong sharp. Where this Criterion Hybrid, I see on the strong end of strong sharp. They're going to fit in the same category, but two different sides of the spectrum. So I see this as a strong and sharp option. If you already have strong and sharp options you like, and you don't want anything close to it, you might not need the Criterion Hybrid, but this could be a great option for any Criterion lovers, which I highly recommend. I think that Criterion's great. I have high hopes for this hybrid. This is honestly my wild card. I don't like that they're releasing two asymmetrical hybrid balls at the same time, but they've done that a lot lately, and the hybrids have been pretty good because they're more versatile, so time will tell how it actually does. Now, let's look at the price of this guy. It is $190, virtually the highest price you can have from the Brunswick brand, so $5 less than the Hypnotize, same price as the Criterion, probably the same price as the Crusher. I'm going to fact check that just in case. Crusher is $185. So the Crusher is only $5 cheaper, pretty much identical. But that is really what we have to expect with this Criterion Hybrid, just a shiny, sharp version of the Criterion Solid. Now, we're going to take a shift into my personal favorite ball from this bunch. We are back, baby, with the stealth mode. Track has remade the original Track Stealth, the black ball, the all black, super smooth, super continuous benchmark motion. They just remade it in a virtually identical package. I say virtually for a reason, so we're going to get into that. But we have the black and blue stealth mode. Now, Track fans commonly ask when Track will release another ball like the Stealth, as they have for a very long time. So the Stealth mode is that. a touch more performance in the cover in the original with QR10, but otherwise everything else is identical. The colorway is a little bit different. The core is identical, but then the only difference is this QR10 solid cover stock on the stealth mode versus QR9 solid on the original stealth solid. Now, what is the difference between those two? We don't know yet. We're not going to have an idea of how this compares. It sounds like it's a little more motion. That is going to be my guess. It's going to be maybe a little earlier or maybe a little sharper or both. I hope it's identical, honestly. I hope it's just a literal remake and they wanted to make it not seem like a remake, so they just bumped the number up. That would be my like prayer to Brunswick. I really hope that's the case, but we're going to see with a lot of reviews coming out where this ball truly stands compared to the Stealth. Now, the original Stealth series is what really got track going over the last couple of years. They had a lull for a couple of years where not many good balls were coming out. Then they came out with the Theorem line and the Stealth line, and that's really what they've built on. Track has a fantastic resume now over the last like 2 years. Hopefully the stealth mode fits in very well with that original stealth fit. This is going to be a medium and smooth ball. This competes with the Phase 2. This competes with that new Lethal Venom for Motive. This competes with balls in that range, Sublime Focus, Rockstar, things like that. This is going to be that middle of the bag ball. Now, the original stealth was also really good shiny and dull, so this is probably going to fit around the same realm. Time will tell, though, where it exactly fits. Sometimes remakes don't do very well. I hope that's not the case on this one. I really, really hope this one does overperform and do as well as the OG Stealth, but we will end up seeing. Now, if we look at the price, it's kind of cool. 160 bucks. Not bad. That is the same price as the Stealth Hybrid and the Stealth Pearl and what the Stealth Solid was. I believe it was a little higher than the Stealth Solid, actually, but that's just because Brunswick did a bump up of prices in general. So 160 bucks. Now, if we compare that to other brands, like I mentioned, we have the GOAT. The Phase 2 is at 149 right now. That is weirdly cheap. Go buy a Phase 2. They're much cheaper than they should be. That's interesting. So honestly, I would buy a Phase 2 right now, but that is on sale for some reason. That's a little odd. Bowlers Mart must have had too many in the warehouse, is my guess. But other balls that this fits with, I said Sublime Focus. We know that Lethal Venom is about the same price. Sublime Focus is 175, so a bit pricier. But this stealth mode is generally pretty solid price in general for a ball this good. I really like that price personally. I really, really do. I'm excited for this one. Really hopeful for it. This and the Hypnotize are my top 2 dogs. The Criterion Hybrid is going to be my wild card. And then we're going to get into the final ball that we have from Brunswick Bowling. Now, I want to get into, before we look at it, is that Brunswick, I heard a rumor. Now, this might not be true. This is just a word on the street, very subjective, very he said, she said type situation, that they want to release less bowling balls this year, which is probably good because this batch, we only had 4 bowling balls get announced. There were batches in 2024 where we had 6 bowling balls coming out at the same time, and that was way too much. In my opinion, maybe sales say otherwise, but we only have 4, and the 4th one is this. It is the Piranha Powercor Pearl. Now, if you guys remember, the Piranha Powercor Solid came out, I believe, a year or so ago, year or 2 ago. It's already been discontinued from Columbia 300. It was another one of the remake series, one of the nostalgia series from Columbia 300. We're going to look at their balls in a second. That's all they have. They only make remasters of old bowling balls, which is interesting. I hope they branch out to non-Columbia 300 remakes, but that's what they are right now. We have the Piranha Powercor Pearl. The OG Piranha was hit or miss. Brooke from TikTok absolutely adores her Piranha Powercor Solid. It was a pretty okay, just middle-of-the-road benchmark option. It was fine at that. I recommended other balls in its place, but it was okay. It was okay. But now we have the Powercor Pearl, which Columbia 300 continues to deliver nostalgia with performance. They pretty much hit it on the head. The brand is now known for returning yesterday's favorites with updated performance to fit today's conditions. Columbia 300 is trying to be the remake series from Brunswick. So if anyone doesn't know, Deviate is trying to make itself the two-handed, no-thumb company arm of Brunswick. Columbia 300 is trying to make itself the nostalgia series from Brunswick. And then there's a little bit more from the other guys. They don't really have an exact face or exact position that they're going at. But we do have the Piranha Powercor Pearl. This ball came out, the original of this ball came out in the 90s. And as they said, a shiny symmetric pearl fits perfectly with making another option off of this. For anyone who isn't aware, the core numbers for this ball are 252RG 055 differential. Very high differential. pretty high RG, a little bit higher RG, and then it has the HK22 ERT plus Pearl cover stock. It's HK22 again, as we know. It's not HK22C. So I see this to be a little smoother, no pun there. I see this as a little smoother than some of the other Brunswick balls. However, this is a really cool one in my opinion, solely because it fits a gap that Brunswick does not have filled. Right now, Brunswick doesn't have the most symmetrical shiny balls that fit in the medium and sharp slot. If you're a follower of the channel, we have 6 different categories for bowling balls. And this one fits really well in the medium and sharp category. The only other balls in this slot that I'm aware of right now are things like the Scorpion Strike from Hammer is one of the biggest ones, and then a couple radical balls like the No Doubt and the Snapshot, and those are good, but we need more in that category from Brunswick because Storm is knocking it out of the park. They just had the Zen AI or Zen 25. They just had the Optimal Idol Pearl. They have the Road Warrior, and we need some more out of Brunswick on that front. And they delivered with a Piranha Powercor Pearl. I'm very excited to see how this ball does. In my opinion, just based on the other ones, this will sell the worst because you have a stealth ball, which people loved. You have the Hypnotize, which people loved, the Mesmerize and the Vaporize. And then you have the third one was the Criterion Hybrid. And I think people like the Criterion Solid. So I think that one will do okay. I'm a little worried about this one. I hope it doesn't get discontinued too quick. I'm excited to see it on the lane, and we're really going to see what it does compared to some of those other balls from other brands. There really isn't too much else with this bowling ball that they give us. We do have an info sheet, which tells us nothing. Cool. We do have a ball talker, which tells us nothing. And then we have a flip card, which tells us nothing, unfortunately. Unfortunately, Columbia 300, at least from what I can see on here, on the website does not have an actual chart showcasing all their bowling balls. If we look at their like where they fit, if we look at them, this one's directly going to compete with the Ricochet Pearl, which is super hit or miss. This ball is either really, really good or really, really bad for people. It is one of those polarizing bowling balls. Otherwise, they have the Super CUDA, they have the Atlas Hybrid, and then that Messenger Powercor Pearl. That's all they have in the lineup. I see the Piranha knocking the Ricochet Pearl out of the lineup sooner rather than later is my guess. But then they're going to have just lower end bowling balls minus the Atlas. The Atlas is pretty strong. I think people generally like that ball, but I'm not positive. I never see it. I bowl a lot. And this ball is just not seen that often. Hopefully it's okay. I bet it's pretty okay, but it's just not seen often. So I can see this Piranha taking the place of the Ricochet as that medium and sharp option from Columbia 300. Now, before we go, let's look at the price, $160. Pretty okay for a medium and sharp ball. I did mention the Zen 25, so let's look at that price. We have $175 for the Zen 25. So this is a little bit cheaper. If you want that budget bowling ball that I don't think many people are going to have, Piranha Powercor Pearl might be your play. Like I said, $160, nothing too crazy. It's going to be a medium sharp ball below all your ASIM pearls, but above your things like the Ivory Rhinos or the Hustle series or the Vibe series or things like that. But we will have a lot more on these bowling balls. The release date for all 4 of them will be February 20th. That is a Thursday. That is a day before the Rotogrip Rockstar comes out and then a week after the Motive Lethal Venom releases. So we have a lot of bowling balls releasing at the same time as they usually do. As you can see, there's a theme to bowling ball releases. We have a ton of cool ones coming out. I'm very excited for a couple of these in this list. I might be picking one up. We are going to see. Which one are you guys most excited about, though? Which one do you want to pick up, or are you excited for none of them? And tell us why. Let me know in the comments. I read every single comment. I try to answer as many as I can, so please let us know. Otherwise, thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day. Make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't, and I will see you on the next one.